Hello folks, and welcome back to the build video for the Fokker D7. There you can see it in the background there. Now the main structure has been built, and what I thought I would do is demonstrate how I'm going to cover this model. Now this is prompted actually by a chap called Darren Waters, who's a subscriber, and he posted, he got in contact with me, reached out, and was asking some questions about using dress lining as a covering. Now, what was really nice about the messages that he sent was Darren had said that he'd only ever been in almost ready to fly modeler, scale modeler, so he purchased fully ready to fly models, bound them and flew them basically. And the really nice thing was that he said he'd been encouraged to have a go at building a kit following watching some of their videos. And he wasn't messing around either. He's gone for a really big model, a Flybaby half scale. So it's a bit of a beast. But what's really gratifying is that he's discovered the fun of building your own models. And I did say to him that when it comes to the actual flying and the maiden, it's 10 times the exhilaration when you've put the effort in to build it rather than just screw it together. But each to their own, but it was just an encouraging thing. So he asked about using the dress lining. So what I thought I'd do is I'd demonstrate on the fin, perhaps the tail area, but definitely the fin, how I would go about covering it. Now the first thing to do is to give it a couple of coats of Mod Podge, and you let that thoroughly dry. You can leave it for weeks because it'll be reactivated with the heat of the iron. Now, I'm sure, in fact, I know that other white glues work, but I got this at a decent price, so this is what I'm going to use. You simply liberally apply the glue wherever you want the covering to stick. So I don't need it on the supports in the centre of this fin area because I'm not going to be sticking it to that. And I also pointed out, somebody asked what were the advantages of using this. Well, I did say to Darren that the big advantage of using something like Oratex is, of course, that you just have to iron it on, and that's all the work that you have to do. The disadvantages are, one, is the cost. Now, everybody has their own limits when it comes to cost of modelling, and it's a dangerous game to start saying things like this is cheap or this is expensive. But to give you an idea, I've bought 5 meters of this material, and it's 63 inches wide, I believe. And for the 5 meters, UK currency, it cost £12.50. Now, I know the typical sort of cost in the UK for something like Oratex is about £35 for 2 meters. So that's the first issue. The other is there's far more variety available in this covering. You can get literally 50, 60 or more different colours. And I'm going to try something now that I've never done before, and that is I'm going to try using some dress lining that's actually coloured. It would really lend itself to putting on a vintage model, I thought. So if you want to have an antique look, or you want a bright blue or a bright purple or a lilac for that matter, any colour you want, if this works, that's the possibility of what you can use. And this one is cream. So let's have a look at it. Put that to one side. I normally go for 2 coats. So I don't know, excuse me, I don't know how well this will show up on the camera, but that's cream rather than pure white. And I'm going to try this and see how it works. So 2 coats of that. I'll go away, get this done, and when the camera cuts back, it'll be ready to cut and iron on. Here we go then. 2 coats, dry now. I'm about to cut out some of this dress lining, 100% polyester. And let's hope it works as well as the plain white. I could, like you say, if this works, then it means if you're doing a vintage model, it's a great way of getting the covering done, because it comes in, I've seen sites with 50 different shades plus. So there's loads of potential there. I'm using some crimping scissors just to hack it out. So somebody asked about the weight. Well, the weight, as it is, I weighed it to try, the whole bundle of it. Did a rough calculation, so don't quote me on this, but I think it's coming out, as it is here, dry weight, at about 70 grams per square metre. Now, given that Oratex, or its equivalent, comes out at between, I think it's 90 and 120 grams per square metre, depending on the colour. And part of that is it's also glued across the whole surface. Now here I'm only using glue where it's needed. So let's see if this works. There doesn't appear to be a side to it. And I'm sure the camera will be picking this up as white, and it appears white unless you put something white next to it. It's actually a cream. Right. Irons on, just past medium. I have found that this tacks with a higher temperature than the commercial coverings do. So let's see if we can get this to tack. It's taken there. And as is always the case, you do along the long axes first. That's what I'm doing here. And then the shorter axes, and starting in the middle and working out. And then once I've sealed it along the edge, I'll go around the overlap and we'll apply some more Mod Podge. And the reason for that is obviously when I wrap the next layer around, I have to have something to stick it to, don't I? So that being the case, right, okay, let's trim this off. I'm going to leave this one, I'm going to cut this off with a razor, because that's the part that needs to be glued to the tail surface, or the horizontal stab, as some people like to call it. Now, I'm going to cut this. And what's essential whenever you're working with this material, or any sort of covering, I think, is a brand new blade. So I'm going to take that blade through it, although it hasn't had much use. Put a new one in. And I'm going to cut this. And hopefully I'll get a nice clean cut. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. And let's fold this round. Helps if you've got asbestos fingers. I've just caught myself there, never mind. Okay, that's folded round there nicely. Let's trim this in a similar manner. So far so good. Yes, it involves a little more work, but for me, building, making is about 80% of the pleasure. And then when I get to the flying field, that's a massive bonus. That sort of tops it. And as I said, and I've said on multiple occasions, the thrill of actually seeing your own creation take to the air, there's nothing to beat it. Any flying's fun. I don't knock anybody who gets a foamy or ready to fly model. If it gets you flying, that's brilliant in my books. But if you've made the creation and then you fly it, boy, is that special. The DR1 that I've just made the other day, even though it wasn't 100% successful, a dead stick landing, somebody said they've got all the flying characteristics of a manhole cover when the engine cuts, and I think that's about right. So I was pleased I got it down relatively safely. But that was an absolute wreck when it was handed to me. No upper wing, middle wing needed major alterations. All the tail surfaces were destroyed. Mice had been inside and started to eat the inside of the structure. There was no undercarriage. So although that wasn't scratch built, it was a real challenge, and it took about a year of on-off building and then recovering, and I covered it with dress lining like this. And then to see it fly, what a thrill. So this is what I've done. Let's just trim this excess off here. I'm going to fold this round. Now, when it comes to adding the next layer on this side, obviously you have to fold it round. So I'm going to Mod Podge along the edge of the material so that it will stick to it. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back and show you how it shrinks. I've sealed this all the way around. I've added more Mod Podge, but I've also sealed it with some cellulose dope because I don't want it to pull away when I shrink it. Let's do the other side. Same procedure. Roughly cut to size. Long axes first. That's what I'm doing here. It's a little bit awkward because of the triangular shape, of course. And the Mod Podge works really well. I've used straight PVA, that works well. But I've used Mod Podge a lot and I like it. You get it from most craft shops. It's not expensive and it goes a long, long way. Well, I don't think it's expensive. Like I say, it's all relative to individual's price, and I don't want to go down the route of preaching how much things cost because it's all relative, you know. Some people have got less, some people have got a lot more to play with. So here we go. Trim this off, the excess. There we have it. Move that out of the way. I'm normally, well, I am a very, very messy worker, but I have to say that when it comes to actually doing covering, it pays dividends if you sort of tidy the workbench up a little bit. This is as tidy as it gets in this house, unless we've got guests coming round and then suddenly the wife finds out that she's got a dining table under here somewhere. Right, I'll seal this round, which you've already seen me doing, straightforward. Seal it round, and then when I've done that, we'll come back and I'll shrink it and you can see how well it shrinks. Well, that's dried now, so it's just a case of shrinking it. You can see there are some wrinkles in the surface, and we'll see how it tightens up. I'm using a hot air gun, basically used for DIY paint stripping, and I always use the lower setting, which says 375 degrees. That'll sure as hell burn a hole through that if you keep it in one place, but it's about flicking it over. So let's go. Reassuringly, they've come out. And there we go. Now I'll apply 2, sometimes 3 coats of 50-50 thin down shrinking dope, and that'll produce a nice taut airproof surface ready for the paint finish of your choice. So that's basically the technique that I use, and that's using dress lining. And as I've said, it comes in a multitude of colours if you choose to do that. It would really lend itself well just in the colour version on vintage models. I think you would get that look of a nylon covered or a silk covered model. It's very effective. It's tough and it can take quite a bit of abuse. So there we go. Dress lining, a cheap alternative to the commercial covering that's out there. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, why not do so? Bye now.